If anybody was sitting there.
Offense was going to be different.
Time, isn't it?
Hard to go?
Yeah.
I think. Whatever his name, the prosecutor.
Like to call this city council meeting to order this evening. Mr. Agate, will you join us, please? Tuesday, March 3rd, 2020. For the record, all city council members are present this evening, as are members of the staff. I've asked Councilor Arnold if he'd lead us in the pledge.
Everyone please rise. Join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Arnold. Move on. Next item is a moment of silence. We normally at this time take a moment of silence. As we do so, we'd like to remember those who are serving this great nation. We would remember them and appreciate their service they're rendering. We also ask you to remember our police, our firefighters, our first responders, and put yourselves in harm's way each and every day and night for our safety. Also, I would ask you that you remember our city council members. They make decisions this evening that might be in the best interest of those they serve. We'll now take a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Move on next to public comment. Seeing none, unless there's members of the staff who would like to say something at this point, Chief or anyone, we'll move on past public comment to presentations and reports. First of all, Mayor's report. I'd just like to mention we have our third Lunch with the Mayor activity this Thursday at noon at the fire station. Invite the council members, anyone that'd like to come. If you haven't been to one, you're very welcome to come. It's 12 o'clock noon again at the station. So we'll be having that activity. I'd just like to mention a couple of meetings ago, I asked council members some of you serve on different committees, and I asked just kind of like to know if you'd like to keep serving on them or make a change. And I got some responses back. I think I talked to all of you at one time or another, but Councilor Mitchell will continue to serve on the Bonneville Communities that Care Coalition Key Leader Board. Councilor Ellis would like to continue with the serving on the Mosquito Abatement Board. Councilor Arnold has been with the Senior Board for some time. He does have some difficulty now with his work schedule as far as attending the Senior Board meetings. Councilor Stevens has very willingly offered to serve on the Senior Center Board. So, and Councilor Hilton, I've talked with him. Our Bike and Pedestrian Committee has kind of dropped off since Councilor Staton and his enthusiasm left the council. But I've talked to Councilor Hilton, and he's very willing to work and see if we can't get that going again. And so we're going to do that. I put an article in the newsletter, just told what we're doing. I've told about, it'll be coming out here probably in the next few days. if you haven't received it already. But we're going to try to get that going again. Roger and Mike Staten, and we read in the paper probably the three cities are working together to do a bike and pedestrian plan. Alta Engineering, that's not their name, Alta Planning. They're really good. They're out of Salt Lake, Denver too, I think. They're putting that together. We did get a $90,000 grant we requested through Wasatch Front Regional Council. So they're putting that all together. There's a big, it was on the front page in the Standard this week. So if you haven't seen that, you could go to standard.net and probably find it. But they're working that plan. I talked to Mike Staten. He's been helping with Roger and serving on this committee that's working this plan, and he really wants to be involved. He's been having his, he coaches a bike team up at Bonneville, and they come down, I guess, each spring and do a dig day down here, but he wants to continue. He offers that he would like to be on the committee or even be the chair. Okay, and he has a lot of passion, Steve, for what he does with that. And he really did a lot. But anyway, I'd like to get that going again with 2050, not too, well, it's quite a ways away. Some of us may not see that, but our population's supposed to double, and active transportation is going to play a bigger part in it. I serve on the Wasatch Front Regional Council Active Transportation Committee, and they're looking at doing bigger and better things. UDOT now is helping to fund active transportation things, which they haven't in the past. So they've got a fund for that. But, we're trying to get that going, right? So I'd let you know that, and hope you're okay with that. Just something that worked well before, and it's something I think as a community we need to really keep. We've done a lot. We got our trail, it's great. We got the walkway and the pedestrian bridge. We've done a lot of striping that Sean's done. It's gone really, we've done a lot. We were, one or two, I think it was 2 years, we were awarded the Bronze Award for bicycle friendly cities. So that was a good thing. That's something we can work toward again. But I just thought I would maybe mention those assignments tonight. Do any of you have anything from your various committee assignments for this meeting? Okay, moving on next to our consent items. We have two consent items this evening. One is to consider to approve meeting minutes from our February 18th City Council work session, our City Council regular session on the same date, our February 15th strategic planning meeting, our October 29th 2019 joint strategic planning meeting. Is there any changes or corrections on the minutes? With that, do we have a motion to approve the minutes? Mr. Mitchell?
Motion to approve the minutes as stated in the packet.
Second?
Have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it's unanimous in favor. Move on to the second consent item. This is consideration to ratify the Planning Commission election results for the chair and vice chair. Mr. Eggett, do you have any comments there, please?
Just briefly, I know it's for
Wanting to do that,
as far as
to be chair and vice chair.
be nominated, they do fine. Yeah, they both.
So, I mean, it wasn't like, oh, shucks, I'll do it. But it was like, yes, I would like to do it.
Yeah. They've both been participant. They come out to ribbon cuttings when they can, and they're always at design review committee meetings, so they're participant. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just curious about
Yeah.
the enthusiasm for being chair or vice chair.
I don't know if it's like yes, let's do this, but it's a, yeah, sure, I'll do that kind of
Okay.
opportunity. So, yeah,
Okay, good. Thank you.
you're welcome.
That's all, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Amy went to the training down at Utah Leagues of Cities and Towns Convention. So this last one, I talked with her about some other things here recently, and she's pretty excited about what they're doing on the planning commission. So with that, do we have a motion to ratify this election results? Mr. Hilton,
I move to ratify the Planning Commission election results for chair and vice chair.
Second?
have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion on this motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous in favor. Move on to the action items. We just have one action item tonight. Consideration of Resolution 2020-06, awarding a bid for the 2020 Ritter Drive Phase 2 project to the low bidder post-construction in the amount of $732,715.50 with a total budget not to exceed $805,987.05. Mr. Douglas, our Public Works Director.
Thank you, Mayor. Excited for this project. It's been a long time coming. I think it's going to be great for the residents that live there. Also for the pedestrians that are trying to move up and down that street. As we said, post-construction did the first half. I think the project turned out really well. Excited to have them back. And they're anxious to get moving, so if we go ahead with this tonight, they'll probably start either Friday or Monday of this week and get right after it and try and be done in 90 days. So if you have any questions, I'll try and answer them.
Just wondering about the demolition of the house. I haven't been over there. Has that been completed or is that in process?
We started trying to cut the trees down today. I spoke with Bart Howell today, and he still has stuff inside. He's slowly moving. I've started taking bids on the the house demo. So as soon as he feels like he has a substantial amount of his items out of there, we'll go ahead with the demo, but it'll be by a separate contractor.
Okay.
But we should have the trees down hopefully this week if everything goes well. So we'll have the front yard ready, and then the house can go at any time. But we're just we gave him some time on his house option, and he's utilizing quite a bit of it. So as soon as he's out, we're ready to go though.
All right. Any other questions, Mr. Arnold?
I just had a question on how did we come up with the total budget amount versus the bid amount?
I asked for a contingency like we've done on a couple of other projects. As you know, we have quite a few driveways up there, and there could be a chance that we have to adjust the grade or adjust like a retaining wall. And so we won't spend it, hopefully, if we don't need to. Last year we didn't. We stayed under budget, and we also had developers' contributions last year. We should have developers' contributions on this as well, so it should actually cut our costs down. But I just don't like to get in the middle of them projects and come back and wait 2 weeks when we have a road closed to ask for $4,000 to adjust a retaining wall. And so that's the difference between the two. It's a 10% contingency is all it is.
Oh, okay. That's actually where my question was, because that's kind of a weird number.
Yeah,
So throwing just a flat 10%.
it was just a 10%.
That makes sense. Any other questions or comments? Do we have a motion on the resolution? Mr. Ellis, Councilor Ellis.
Move to approve Resolution 2020-6, awarding a bid for the 2020 Ritter Drive Phase 2 project to the low bidder post-construction in the amount of $732,715.50 with the total budget not to exceed $805,987.05.
Second.
We have a motion. We
Aye.
have 2 seconds. Give it to Councilor Mitchell. Is there any discussion on the motion? Ms. Nay, would you poll the council on the resolution, please?
Councilmember Ellis,
Aye.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Aye.
Councilmember Arnold,
Aye.
Councilmember Hilton,
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous in favor, thank you. Move on next to discretionary items for the city council meeting. Mr. Stevens.
Since the police chief is here, could I just ask you, without disclosing numbers, because I know it hasn't been concluded, but you had a job opening for police. Just curious, are you getting depth and quantity of applicants? Are you getting a lot of interest? I guess that's where because I try to follow the recruiting of police officers, and I'm curious as to the when you have an opening, what kind of interest you get, and if you can't say, I understand.
So we don't get the quantity that we once did. I mean, if you go back to when I started, it wasn't uncommon to get 100 people in a department this size. My first job in North Ogden, there were a little over 100 people that applied. We're sitting about 13, 14.
How many
However,
of those are post academy?
We've only about half of those were post-certified. So about half of them didn't even qualify for what we were asking. But we are still drawing good lateral candidates, and a lot of departments aren't doing that. And so we've still definitely got that going for us, where we are drawing good lateral people from other departments that apply out of those applications.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, just for informational purposes, I've been involved with military recruiting, and military recruiting kind of follows in the same sort of realm as law enforcement recruiting, and the sheer numbers just aren't there like they have been. And thank you. I appreciate you sharing that.
That's probably a result of the jobless rate being down as low as it is. That's quite often that happens. I'd just like to mention too, seeing as though you brought it up about recruiting, Bart, I'm aware that Bart just retired from the military. How many years? Maybe just tell us how many years. And I know you served Marines and Army, didn't you, both?
Yes, active and reserves, 37 years total, with 31 years of what we call good years, where you're actively engaged in good years towards retirement. 31 years, which enabled me to get a letter of appreciation signed by our commander-in-chief, which is prominently hanging on my wall.
Yeah, congratulations. That's really commendable. So we appreciate your service. Any other discretionary?
Mayor, I got a really quick one here, if I could.
Go ahead.
We had a hearing last week. It's in front of the State Records Board. This has never happened since I've been here. And we spent all day down there in front of them and had to make a big presentation defending Riverdale on it was an original records request from one of our senior visitors over there. It was a long, ugly, drawn-out day, but one of those ones that just takes a lot of time for nothing. This record stuff has just turned into a nightmare. And then we get things like this. It's just, I know the intent of it was good, but man, this was an abuse, quite frankly. But we ended up winning that 5-0, so come out good in our favor. But hopefully we don't get too many of those.
No, it turned out good. This was really, it's too bad we even had to deal with it, but we did. So, did I mention that one bill that's before the legislature on grandma? Did I mention it in our work session? There's a bill before the legislature that probably adds to the grammar requirements. And there was, the league is opposed to that bill. And they haven't talked about it in the last two, have they? But anyway, there was a guy there from St. George, and he said right now in the St. George Police Department, they have 4 employees. That's all they do is grammar requests. And they said that if this law passes, this new bill, they will have to hire 4 more people to do the grammar requests. It's that much to it. So that's kind of what's happening with the legislature sometimes. All right, any other discretionary? Do we have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Mitchell?
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Drive safe. Okay, so, Mayor, if I could be excused for
Sure. Yeah.
Chime in on your phone and be one of the people
gonna
viewing.
be on the west bench, so I should.
Yeah, go watch the movie.
We can't tell you what happens. Remember, it's closed session, so darn the bad luck.
Nothing great.
Okay, sounds good.
You got your gun on you? Aren't you a sergeant at arms? Oh, okay.
Okay, all right.
Right in there with your uniform.
You know, he comes over and he talks to me about being here. He knows that we really like him to be here.
Yeah,
He knows that.
that's good.
I appreciate that.
It's in our rules and procedures that
Really?
we'll have a sergeant at arms at every meeting. Yep,
Good.
it's right there in black
That's why I
and
was
white.
saying he's just a sergeant without an arm.
It's important to him, and I told him, I says, we really like having you.
Yeah, it's good to have him. We need somebody here all the
You
time.
hear D out there bunking stuff around, you're like,
Yeah, who was that?
Oh, Mr. Hanson?
old Lloyd Hike could come in here with a bump stock and get us all.
Good.
Good thing Bart's bigger, I can.
You know, we talked about putting metal underneath here at one time, quite a few years ago. You know, I think we talked once too, Kevlar. You can get sheets of Kevlar. That'd be lightweight and that might be doable.
Yeah, we looked at that, but it's pretty pricey to do it, so
Is
we
it?
backed off on it. 'Cause it's just buying you time. You
Yeah,
still
just
gotta get to that board
prolongs,
somehow.
prolongs the inevitable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's no way out hardly for us. So.
No, this was not designed for safety, that's for sure.
Dave Gibby used to have an arm with him. He used to carry one.
Pea shooter, I don't know what good that would've
You
done.
know what, I've thought about him a lot, because one time in a meeting, he said, we were talking about buying some stuff for the police department, and he said, with what he has in his trunk, he could give the Riverdale Police Department a run for their money. And I'm like,
Yeah, he's
Okay.
got some. He's got quite a.
quick acquisition sites that the police don't have and stuff like that. And I was like, okay.
Yep. Are we okay to move forward? Okay, got all the players here. Okay, I'd like to call the Riverdale City RDA Board Tuesday, March 3rd, 2020 to order. For the record, all board members are present with the exception of Mr. Ellis, who has been excused this evening. Also members of the staff here tonight. Do have a period for public comment. I don't imagine you have anything, Dee, at this point for us. All right, we'll move right on to item C, presentations and reports. First one is RDA real estate updates. Mr. Worthen.
Mayor Searle, thank you. Council, appreciate your board. Thank you for being here. Your board members now, different hat. Just wanted to give you some real quick updates, what's going on. We have Mr. Hanson here with us tonight, and we are planning a tentative presentation March 17th to present a development agreement to you, but Dee may want to move that back. There's some ongoing discussion that he is having, and this would be an agreement that would manage the development of what we call 400 West Street, which is just that road that would be across from Petco that would go into the future retail establishments that are being planned there. That Dee has received LOIs on a few of those. The agreement discusses that. It also discusses as well the transfer. If you recall, about a month ago, we transferred property from Riverdale City into the RDA. That was in preparation or in planning or a step that we needed to take in order to, enter into this development agreement. And we can talk about that value and consideration of those properties later on in a closed session that we have on your agenda this evening. We are having our attorney review that agreement right now. He returned quite a robust agreement that Mike and I spoke, about an hour today, Mike? We had kind of a robust discussion on some of the items in that agreement. We will have to have what we call an ADL, an agreement to develop land with this board, the RDA board, and then we will also have to have somewhat of a redundant or similar agreement that would be a development agreement, so it's named a little bit differently, but that would go to the city council because we have some intertwined issues relative to each body. And so in preparation for that, we wanted to give you a heads up. And if you have any questions or concerns, I'll entertain those. And Dee as well. Dee's here with us tonight. But we have some discussions ongoing with Dee as well as our attorney, our RDA attorney, Adam Long. Some of you perhaps have met him in the process of formulating those agreements for your consideration. And I don't think in talking with Dee that we're going to have them ready for your meeting here in 2 weeks, but probably the first meeting, I would guess April.
Yeah. And I can give you a little more update,
Okay.
kind of what that timing.
I'll leave that one to you.
Yeah.
Okay. Relative to what we call 400 West Street, I think we've mentioned before that would be a private lane. In the agreement, the RDA would fund that roadway. It adjoins to the north with the old Farmers Insurance building that's there to the north that's owned by the Katrubis family, and then to the south. Dee has a letter of intent from a business that would be going onto the hard corner on the south side, and then even some additional interest further to the south towards the Krispy Kreme building. And so that road, although we call it 400 West Street, it's a private lane. We just call it that so we know what we're talking about. I mentioned the conveyance of land that's been completed and recorded, which was approximately 8 acres that we conveyed from the city over to the RDA. That will be an incentive, if you will, within this development agreement with the developer. Dee can talk about gathering some LOIs, which he has, and we would probably do that here in this closed session. The attorney review is ongoing, so that's kind of what's happening right now in the 550 West area. It's busy. It consumes a lot of that gentleman's time right there, and that Dee over there. We take a lot of time during our day dealing with these issues here. As for the West Bench, apologize, Councilor Ellis had to leave. Still ongoing in discussions relative to some real estate discussions that we've had with you in private session up there. We do have a meeting forthcoming with the credit union's engineer on some ideas that they have, so we'll keep you up to speed on what we entertain with that. All positive news up there. We haven't heard back from the developer that took interest about a year ago in it. It's a concern for us. May I suggest perhaps that the mayor and I had a discussion about maybe having Mayor Searle reach out to them via a written letter or something and say, we're still here type work. And so that's ongoing. I can't get into a lot of the details because it really hasn't been brought forth in a public hearing yet or a public meeting. If there's any questions relative to those two project areas, I did fail to mention over in the 550 West area that's an intertwined RDA project area with Riverdale Road. Riverdale Road RDA is done. It's ceased its gathering of tax increment, but there are funds within that project still, or within that RDA. And as an RDA, we are required to spend those down and do what we told the taxing entities that we were going to do, and that's add value to the city and add value, hopefully, to their tax rolls. And so that's what we have to do. We have roughly, Mike, about 800,000 still in there, if I remember right? might be more than that, around 9. I can't remember the quite, but there's a pot of money there that we're required to obviously invest in our community and increase the tax rolls by the development that occurs. So we do have some 550 West and some Riverdale Road RDA properties kind of intertwined over in that area, but we'll work through those as we go through the creation and finalization of this development agreement with the board. And I'll turn the tide to Dee relative to what he wants to explain on some of the updates there. And then after the consent item, Mayor, we'd go into the closed session to discuss some detailed real estate issues. That's all I have.
Go ahead, Dave.
Do you have anything?
Do you think we better go into close and we kind of do it all of the?
Unless you have anything that's outside of real estate that you want to talk about.
No, I'm looking forward to the conversation on all the tenants and then as it relates to up there to the West Bench too. So I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. Move on to item D, consent items. One item, consideration to approve the meeting minutes from January 7th, 2020, the RDA meeting on that date. Is there any changes or corrections to those minutes? With that, do we have a motion to approve the minutes? Councilor Mitchell. Mr.
Motion
Mitchell.
to approve consent items.
Have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous in favor, Ms. Nay. Move on next, consideration of adjourning into a closed executive session pursuant to the provisions, section 52-4-4205, for the purpose of discussing real estate. Do we have a motion to move into the closed executive session?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion on this motion? Ms. Nay, would you poll the council, please, on this?
Board Member Mitchell?
Aye.
Board Member Arnold?
Aye.
Board Member Clifton?
Aye.
Board Member Stevens?
Aye.
Unanimous in favor, thank you.